had a great laid plan today. I was going to move this desk away. I was going to speak to you one-to-one. I was going to use my hands more. I was going to blah, 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 and nothing worked. So I tested it all out last night. Today, didn't work at all. So I couldn't do it. So anyway, back to same old set here. Sorry, I'm late today, but I wanted to share with you some thoughts today. It is Caskey Live. We do this every day at 8-ish. Usually Tuesday through Friday. It's right on the button 8. Monday, a little tough to get to, but I'm glad to be here today. I know that last week we had a guest, Caskey, Kara Kempf, actually, married name. She was on I think Friday of last week, and we had a good discussion with her about text versus email. She's in the business of consulting and coaching companies, ad agencies, and also B2C brands on that whole text versus email. And so if you are interested in that topic, go back to Friday's episode and watch. I think you'll enjoy it. You know, whenever I get ready to do one of these, I typically will come up with a title and I'll outline just some bullet points that I want to cover, and then I'll let it kind of percolate for a couple of days. And in my percolation period last week, I heard from one of my clients who was buying a service, and it just fits perfectly with what I'm going to talk about today. And what I'm going to talk about is the one mission that you have as a sales professional, business owner, VP of sales. The one mission. If you were to boil it all down to one thing in the buyer-seller relationship, it's this. You've got to flip the script. You must flip-flop the traditional I'm here to sell to you. I'm here to convince you. I'm here to persuade you. It's the thing that it causes the most frustration and drama and pain for we sales professionals. And yet we don't flip it. We just kind of keep going the same way. And we might have been instructed on how to sell. I remember when I first got out of college and I went with a company and we hired a firm to come in and do professional sales skills. It was Xerox training. It was an old, I'm sure it was legit. It was good. They had nice binders and everything. And it was basically how to convince people to buy from you. And a lot of you are still using the same convince, persuade, and defend model. And you wonder then why your closing rates are 15% or 20%. And it's the reason is because you've never flipped the script. And by flipping the script, I mean, I want your mission to be to create the conditions where the prospect is selling you on why they need what you have. The prospect is selling you on why they need what you have. And if you can't flip that script, then guess what? All the burden is on you to convince them that they should buy from you. And what happens when that occurs? Just think about the chain of events, chain of custody here, chain of events. Well, when that happens, when you're convincing them, they resist because they can feel it. Nobody wants to be convinced of anything. So I've got a couple of thoughts here today that I think these are some mistakes that we make when we go out into the sales arena. And if you have a team of salespeople, you need to have them watch this because these mistakes are easy to correct. I'm not going to get to all of the solution for the script flipping, but at least these three things here, I think will help you. Number one mistake that we make is we have an undertone. I talked about this last week in one of my lives. We have this undertone of I'm here to convince you to buy, even though we don't say that, even though we say something different. We say, look, I'm really here to help you identify your needs. There's an undertone of that, okay, I'm saying those things, but really I want the sale. And when you have that undertone, the prospect picks up on it. You don't think they feel that? You feel it. You know it when someone is saying one thing, but their intention really is something else. You can feel it. And so number one is lose the undertone of convincing and persuading. I think it'll help you. Number two, we ignore the chain. There is a chain of things that happen when you show up. And so here's the chain. The chain is somebody reaches out to you, let's just say, or maybe you make a cold call on somebody and you get in to see them. And then what happens is they create some interest. There's some interest there. They're interested in what it is you have, or maybe interested in solving a problem. And then you start to load them up with information, and you start to ask questions, which you should. I like that. But then you start to load them up with information, and then they can't make a decision. And then they call you and say, "Look, we haven't arrived at a decision yet." And you say, "Okay, well, maybe we need more information." Then you lose the sale. Let's say the sale is lost. And then you go to your marketing department and say, "We need more information. We need better case studies. We need better testimonials. We need better brochures. We need a faster website." And then they go back and they start running around and creating all this stuff that rarely gets used. Ask any marketing head, what's the biggest challenge you have? And he says it's when, or she says, when it's the sale, when the sales team wants something and we create it and then they don't use it. And the reason we have them created is because we think more information is best. More information only intellectualizes the process. And I fall guilty of that. I had a guy probably a month ago, he might even be on, but he contacted me, he wanted to join the program, and he was really excited. He says, "Hey, can you just send me this one piece of information?" And I have it. So I said, "Sure, I'll give that to you." And then he asked for more information, and he asked for more information. And then guess what? He disappeared. And he disappeared because I had never found his true core reason for wanting to be a part of my program. I failed him. He didn't fail me. I failed him. So I can blame it on him, which I did for a period of time. But then I thought, well, no, I didn't uphold my end of the bargain. I sent him too much information. I didn't send him every time he wanted something, but there was a constant desire, and I should have called it right there and said, "Look, if you're needing more information, we're done. There's nothing here." So think about the chain that happens when you don't do this the right way. And it's a mistake we all make. Number 3 mistake I think we make is we have a preference. We need to take no preferences into the process. And I know it's hard for us to think about that because we think, well, my preference is to make the sale. And I want you to get your preference out of the equation, because your preference doesn't matter. Your desire to make the sale, your need to make the sale, your want, VP of sales says, "Hey, we need to close more business." And when you bring in the sale, everybody cheers and it feels good. But that's a preference. That's your preference. Your preference has no place at all in the buyer-seller dance. And that might sound odd, because you say, well, wait a minute. We're human beings. We want things. Yes, we want things. But when you're in the buyer-seller process and you're talking with somebody about their pains, their issues, your preferences don't mean anything. Now, I do think that you ought to have a process that you work. And I'll give you an example of that here in a minute. I think you need to have a process. But in terms of preferences of what happens at the end, no preferences, none. So those 3 things, number 1, just lose the undertone. That's a mistake we make. We have an undertone of needing to sell. Number 2, we ignore the whole chain of operations, the thing that operate, the order of operations that happens. And we need to get back to understanding their dilemma, understanding their problems, understanding their future goal, where they're going to go. Forget all that intellectual stuff in between. And you might be in a business where you have a lot of intellectual stuff, case studies, but just don't send it out as much. Let the conversation drive it. And then number 1 is lose your preferences. Here's an example of, I have a client who actually might be watching, and he's considering selling his business. And he interviewed 3 or 4 business brokers, which you do when you're looking to sell. And he said he had good conversations with each of them, but he said he had a lady last week who was a business broker in his niche. And she said, well, let me tell you how this works. First conversation is right now. I get to know you a little bit. You get to know me. At the end of that time, we both decide, does it make sense to move forward? If it does, I will send you a contract. The contract needs to be executed within 48 hours. Once the contract is executed, I will send you an invoice for the down payment on this, whatever it is. I don't know what it was. And once I receive your check, I will start working and getting some interviews lined up. At the end of 90 days, and then she went on to talk about the process. Very buttoned up. He said she was extremely nice, very kind. felt really like this was the right person. And he said, okay, great, let's get started. And I said to him, well, what happened? What happened there? Did she try to sell you? He says, no, she didn't try to sell me at all. In fact, I felt like I was convincing her that I had a business that would be good for her to sell. So I was the one doing the convincing, which is exactly what I'm talking about here. If you have a good process, you lose the need for preference, you understand the chain of events that sometimes can get you in trouble, and stay out of that, you're going to have no trouble at all doing that. Go to billcaskey.com if you have any interest in things. I've also got, I know this is unprofessional, I've got a document that we've been promoting here, 5 reasons you don't have enough clients. Let me see if I can put this up here really quickly. I don't know if I can. Yeah, 5reasonsclients.com, 5reasonsclients.com. It's got 11 or 12 pages of good stuff. If you don't feel like you have enough customers or not generating enough clients, it will be a document that will be helpful. I will see you tomorrow. Love to hear comments. If I can't get to your comments during the show, which I know I had some that I couldn't get to, I will get to them later today. I will see you tomorrow. Bye.